So Comic-Con's been and gone a couple of weeks ago now, and of course as part of those proceedings we got our first proper look at Avatar 7 Havens, and what it's starting to shape up to look like with a still image of the Avatar and her companions, both animal and human. So here it is, just for reference, and my first thoughts were that it looked pretty cool. The city in the background looks beautiful, unique, and different to the types of things that we've seen before in the franchise, and our characters look pretty interesting too. Plus, I thought the animal looked cute as well. I mean, in the end, it's just a single image, isn't it? So it's kind of hard to judge anything based on that. For me, I just had that one look and I went about my day without much to say. Because anything other than that feels very premature. I will say, though, that it would have been nice to maybe see a couple of other pictures too. I get that they're still early in the process and they won't be releasing anything until 2027. But at the same time, I can't help but feel that if we'd seen a little bit more, these criticisms would have been rather easily swatted away and would have been dead and buried by now. We did get a couple of tidbits about the show from the panel, but first up I want to talk a bit more about the picture because there's certainly been some backlash to it over the last couple of weeks, which kind of surprised me a lot. I don't understand how people get so heated about a single image, but here we are. I feel like this type of upset and premature overreaction is becoming all too common in this day and age. You can see it in the online fandom of so many big properties. We're talking Marvel, DC, anything vaguely fantasy-based, Star Wars too. There's this need to cry about every little thing. Don't get me wrong, I love to nitpick as much as anybody, but it's getting egregious at this stage. Nothing else for it but to start breaking this down though. There's been a couple of major quibbles that people have had, and we'll go through them one by one, starting with the two most absurd ones. The first of them being that the Avatar has dark skin, which doesn't fit the East Asian/Chinese aesthetic of the Earth Kingdom and Earthbenders, and it doesn't make sense. I will say that first of all, this was a complaint I've seen the least of, but it was still present nonetheless. I don't get it, to be honest, because in the end, it's actually inaccurate to the world we're presented with. I mean, remember the guru that helped Aang with his chakras at the Eastern Air Temple? Guru Pathik? This guy didn't just spawn into the world out of nowhere. Clearly, the world has more cultures and peoples than were on display during the majority of the show. This one just had me baffled. It's not forced diversity or anything of the sort. We've seen people that look like this before in The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender! That is the show the really hardcore fans seem to hold up as the holy scripture. It's their version of the good old days. Ugh, people need to get real with this complaint. Next up is the equally baffling. The Avatar's disabled, so how can she be the Avatar properly? I don't even get this one. So, she's missing a leg? Does it really matter all that much? For starters, just because she has a disability, it doesn't mean that she can't master bending or fully utilize her Avatar abilities. I mean, it's really a bit rich to assume this to begin with, seeing as the majority of people that are leaving comments like this would get absolutely smoked in a running race by a Paralympian. Even beyond that though, I don't think your physical strength is going to play that much of a role in your bending to begin with, and in many ways I think it allows you to completely compensate for your deficiencies. Take Aang. You strip away his bending and his Avatar state and he's just a little boy. A small and slender little boy. Without her bending, Toph is a small and blind little girl. Give her bending though, and she's a prodigy, with her blindness actually giving her a pathway to bending that nobody had achieved before. What about that waterbender lady from the Red Lotus who kidnaps Korra? I'm pretty sure in lore she was meant to have been born without any arms, and yet it doesn't seem to impact her. We see her waterbend without arms to a level beyond most people, and it takes her getting Pikachoo'd by Mako to take her out of the fight. Otherwise, she was doing rather well. On top of that, the Avatar I'm pretty sure is meant to be a prodigy, right? Aang was with air, and when you look at the timeline, he got to a decent proficiency with everything else in a very short span of time. It's the same with Korra. She was masterful early on, and only really struggled with air due to the spiritual side of things not coming easy to her personality type. Thus, it would be shocking if the new Avatar is not able to easily overcome the fact that she's missing a leg and compensate with her earthbending to an insane degree. Every other Avatar we've met in the show has already mastered their native element. It would be weird if she hadn't too, especially considering there's only 26 episodes across 2 seasons. Shrinkflation has hit Avatar hard, and there's no time to piss around wasting time learning her native element as well as all the others. Also, just a side note, but I'm going to consider it a massive missed opportunity if she keeps that peg leg forever. I think it would be much cooler if eventually she's able to either earthbend or metalbend herself a leg that she can then use as a handy weapon. And theoretically, I guess she could also waterbend herself a leg, although that might be harder to use. I think another element of this complaint is that it makes her seem all special snowflake, which is yet again something that has absolutely no merit in this context. After all, the whole point of the Avatar is that they are truly a special snowflake. In this world, you're either a bender or you're not. Benders are already special, but then you have certain characters that are able to take it one step further and specialize within their element. Metal bending, lava bending, lightning bending, blood bending, projecting your spirit, those sorts of things. However, that's as far as they can take it. You perfect your element, but you can't pick up a new one. Meanwhile, the Avatar can master not one, Not 2, not 3 styles, but all 4. But wait, there's more! They're able to access, or rather were able to access, the memories and experiences of all their past lives to help them, as well as activate the Avatar state, which juices them up with the full power of the Avatar spirit to allow them to kick some truly significant ass. How much more special Snowflake can you get? Essentially, they've become an unstoppable force to be reckoned with, who far outclasses every single other human within the setting. How, when you think about it, having only one leg, if it actually does impact her bending slightly, is actually a kind of good thing. Having her need to figure out ways to compensate for that actually makes her more vulnerable as a character, and means that villains can actually have a bit of a chance of fighting her without it feeling forced for the plot. I really just can't comprehend the complaint for this one either. It seems so silly to be kicking off about this sort of thing at all. In a world where the Avatar is special to an absurd degree, and yet shares the same abilities as every other lead protagonist in the franchise, you need to ensure your character can stand out. This then leads us into the art style of the show. So is this concept art with the actual style they're going to be going with, or is this legitimately a still from an episode? I'm not really all that sure, but it's likely going to look very similar to this when they actually release the first season. To tell you the truth, it has been very mixed out here in regards to the design choice. The prevailing opinion that I'm seeing tossed around, that it doesn't feel like Avatar in its visuals. That it has a more Dragon Prince vibe, or insert whatever other animated show they think of in that place. They claim it doesn't look the way that The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra looked. For me, this is a complaint that seems entirely born out of nostalgia for the look and design of the original show. I think everybody can be blinded by nostalgia at one point or another. I know that I certainly can be that way from time to time. There's plenty of books that I've read and become attached to that then get screen adaptations that change how the world feels compared to the page, and I certainly have a salty whine about that. House of the Dragon's probably a recent one for me that well and truly fits in with that perspective. However, I think it's important to be able to recognise when you're not giving things a fair chance, or have reached the stage where you're so goggled up that you're going to perceive any difference, no matter how minor, to be the worst thing in the world. Thus, when people say, "Oh, it doesn't look like Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra," I have the same reaction that I do when people talk about how modern Pixar films don't look or feel like Pixar. I shrug and I think, looks like one to me. Same deal with this. Is the visual style a complete one-to-one comparison with Avatar: The Last Airbender? No, but neither was Legend of Korra. Things are going to evolve over time as technology shifts and changes. The Pixar of the mid-2000s is completely different to the Pixar of the mid-90s, and completely different to the Pixar of today. They're different beasts that are clearly linked, and you can see that style evolve across the course of the films. It's the same vibe here for me. In the end, I think it's clear that animation styles evolve across time, and thus things are going to look different the further along you go. I swear that some people are just not going to be satisfied unless it looks exactly the same as The Last Airbender, down to the slightly aged look that show now has. Even then though, does it really look all that different? I swear people are acting like they've gone from Dragon Ball Z to The Simpsons, and that's just really not the case. I just think a lot of the confusion with the picture is down to the clothing and the world rather than the actual design. That's really what's setting it apart from other installments in the franchise, I think, but once again, I think it makes a lot of sense for the world that they're presenting. First of all, if you simply look at our world, it's clear that fashion can rapidly change over time, and we don't really know how far ahead in this future the show is meant to be. After all, Korra's dead, yes, but how old was she when she died? I struggle to think that they're going to have her kick the bucket very early on, considering just how much shit her character had to go through over the course of her own show. It would be a big time tease to have her die in a decade or so off screen, obviously to be revealed during the Seven Havens, probably as the finale of Season 1 or sometime during Season 2 to clear her name for the chaos that has been unleashed. We know her ending is likely going to be sad or bittersweet, probably in a similar vein to Roku, but hopefully she gets to be an old lady thrown down with a spirit or something one last time. Otherwise it would feel like the character's whole existence is just misery porn. On top of that, they clearly want to keep making Avatar movies and whatnot, and I doubt they're going to just stop with one Aang movie. Legend of Korra was also really popular, and I could 100% see that getting its own film to flesh out the story more and fill the gap. Thus, you wouldn't want Seven Havens to be set too close to the ending of the final season of Legend of Korra. You want that big empty space to give you room to work with, just like there's a lot of room to play with Aang's story because of the huge gap between the end of The Last Airbender and the prologue of The Legend of Korra where Aang dies and Korra's born. What was I talking about again? Oh, that's right, the clothes, and how it's okay if they don't fully look like they fit in with the world, because there's a chance a lot of time has passed. I mean, if you got a time machine and showed somebody from the 1920s what somebody in the 1980s was wearing, they'd probably be a little bit shocked, wouldn't they? That's not even accounting for an apocalyptic event as well. On top of that, we've only seen 2 characters so far, and I just don't think that's enough to go off as to whether the clothing style's terrible or not. For me, though, it makes a lot of sense for the world that's being constructed in the image. Is it a bit more fantasy in presentation? Yes, but I think that fits in with the world they're trying to create. It's one that's filled up with spirits and wonder A world where humanity is standing on the brink of destruction. People gotta give it some time to cook. I remember there being so much hate back in the day for The Legend of Korra, and how their clothes were different in Republic City, and how technology was ruining the show and moving it away from what made Avatar: The Last Airbender good. Now they're leaning way harder back in the other direction, and what do you know? Same old shit, same old complaints. If they ever make a Fire Avatar show after this, I guarantee there's going to be complaints about how it doesn't look like the Seven Havens either. Not quite done yet though. I don't really get the slander for the animal companion either, to tell you the truth. I've seen so many different comments that are talking about how it doesn't have the same look or same feel as the various other animals that the avatars travel with. They're the likes of Momo, Oppa, Naga, Pabu. They're all way more avatar coded or something along those lines. To me though, it just doesn't make any real sense. It's another combination creature. Is the issue that it's kind of cutesy looking? Or is it that when it's an animal, that difference in animation style is more pronounced to them? There doesn't seem to be much of a consensus here from what I've seen, but I just think it looks normal. It looks like an animal from Avatar. I don't know, maybe you think I'm just shilling or delusional, but I just can't see anything wrong with it when I look at it, you know? Okay, so those are the big takeaways from the picture. Yes, it was pretty much all complaints as far as I could see, however, we did learn a few more things too. The Avatar's named Pavi, and her two companions are Jay, who's the big dude at the back and serves as a mentor type figure / guardian, and then there's Geet, who's the cat. They all live in a city named Allura, which is this cool city in the background. Not really much beyond that, other than the series is going to be more overtly fantasy and otherworldly than previous installments. I think there's probably going to be something that a lot of fans are apprehensive about too, but I think this is what I was expecting coming into things. Korra's story started the integration of the spirit world and the human worlds, and so it seemed like we were going to be heading into some fantasy sci-fi combination land. The big apocalypse is probably going to put the brakes on the technology side of things, as it doesn't fit the aesthetic they probably want for the franchise, but there really seems to be no way to avoid leaning into the more fantastical alien world vibes that the spirit world would entail, to be honest. And I think that's for the best. I'm excited for it. In the end, I think there's a lot of negativity going around, and it just seems strange to me. The first two shows are absolute classics, and so I have no reason to doubt that this one will be either. And in the end, we've hardly seen anything at all. At least wait for a trailer before writing it all off, that's what I'd say. With all that being said though, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of everything we've learned about Avatar 7 Havens so far? Are you with me? It's a bit early to start hating. Or are you a founding member of the Seven Havens Salt Brigade? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.